Under the spreading chestnut tree, I sold you and you sold me. There lie they and here lie we, under the spreading chestnut tree. Welcome to another caffeinated critique, where we let our thoughts on books simmer until we've got ourselves a nice brew. It's so ass. This week, we're doing 1984. Now this one was actually given to me by my goofy ass uncle, maybe sometime before or during my freshman year of high school. And in reading it again for this video, I found it to be extremely well written and densely packed with a rich, horrifying portrayal of unchecked power and one man's search for understanding. His name was Winston Smith. From what he could remember, the year was 1984. In every room they had a screen that watched your every move, and if they couldn't see you, they could hear you. The only place you were safe was your own thoughts, and sometimes your thoughts would betray you. One expression, one misplaced emotion was all it would take, and you would be guilty of thought crime. And when you vanished into the night, everyone noticed, but they knew better than to say anything about it. You couldn't trust your coworkers or your neighbors. You were utterly and ultimately alone. This was Winston's world, all he's ever known, and yet he can't help but feel like he was robbed of something greater. In Oceania, the party controlled everything. You lived in rundown apartments called Victory Mansions, wore the same uniform and spoke the same language. Newspeak, they called it. Language was once a tool that liberated people, but now it's being used to control them. Every year, their vocabulary gets revised into some party-friendly version that dilutes their meaning and limits the spread of ideas. And even if they had the words to think for themselves, they wouldn't even have the facts to back it up, because the party is a bunch of hypocrites, presenting themselves as infallible while having an entire branch dedicated to the production of propaganda and the revision of every document, even history itself, to suit their own purposes. Whoever controls the past controls the present. Whoever controls the present controls the future. Newspeak, doublethink, the mutability of the past. He felt as though he were wandering in the forest of a sea bottom, lost in a monstrous world where he himself was the monster. He was alone, the past was dead, the future was unimaginable. What certainty had he that a single human creature now living was on his side? And what way of knowing that the dominion of the party would not endure forever? Like an answer, the three slogans on the white face of the Ministry of Truth came back at him. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. Lost in this nightmare, we must ask ourselves, can the individual survive amongst the collective? And time again, Orwell's answer is no. Alone, we are mortal, our memory fallible, and at our core, empathetic. Winston believes he's being pursued by an enemy, but when she falls on a broken arm, he can't stop himself from reaching out and helping her. We are social creatures, we just want to be loved, but the party uses that against the people. They took your family and your friends and they gave you Big Brother. In the face of pain, there are no heroes. In a world so devoid of love, there is only the avoidance of pain. Winston is thrown in the ministry of love, and he is beaten and starved and electrocuted and I think lobotomized. And he's in so much pain that he confesses to everything, anything to make the pain stop. They tell him they can, that they can do anything. The party has become so powerful that they control reality itself. After all, what is reality but your own subjective experiences? The mortal memory compared to the immortal collective memory. Big Brother will remember for you. Big Brother will ease your pain. Big Brother understands you. Perhaps one did not want to be loved so much as to be understood. The book ends as it started. Winston is alone. But by this point, he's betrayed everyone he's ever known, including the only person who ever loved him. And he's happy, because he can love Big Brother. Eesh, downer ending. So what's the point? Is the party right? Only if you allow them to be. The reasons why the party is so successful is because they found a way to make individuality illegal and labeled it dangerous and harmful. They robbed people of their loyalties to their family and their friends and cut them off from the rest of the world. Kept them in line through surveillance and brute force. And when you were finally hollowed out enough, they filled you with party sentiment and war hysteria. God was dead, and Big Brother took his place. So the next time some corporation or collective body tries to take away your agency for your own good, question it, demand sources, talk about it while you still can. Because a nation is only as strong as its people are educated. Submission is slavery. Don't give up on your individuality in your pursuit to be understood and be a part of something greater, because that is not love. That's a cult. The command of the old despotisms was, thou shalt not. The command of the totalitarians was, thou shalt. Our command is, thou art. Well, that was 1984. There lie they, and here lie we. This is one of the most depressing books I have ever read, but I've actually read it before, and before I didn't really get it. I mean, I understood it. I understood what it was about. I understood what it stood for. But reading it to, for this video, I felt like I've read it for the first time and really looked at it. There's actually a part in the book that before I would always skip because it's literally just Winston reading another book. That is the most boring thing you can do in anything. Let's make our movie somebody else watching a movie. I mean, that is like movie writing 101. But actually reading it, it felt very natural. Like, of course there would be a book in this world that, just deconstructs the party's methods and the way they do things and why they, well, it's not really why, but more so how. The why comes later. And it's very sad. It's so depressing because all of the party's methods and torture and surveillance just amounts to power. They just want to control people, which is accurate. It's so accurate, and I mean, that's what people always say about this book, that it's foreshadowing, that it's a warning, that it's a commentary on our current culture, and it's all of those things. But it's also just very sad. I mean, to be living in a world like Winston's where you can't even trust your own family because you don't even have a family. I mean, it's so it is a constant paranoid, schizophrenic nightmare. They're always watching you. There are posters that say they are watching you. They have thought police who drive helicopters and peek in windows in the first chapter. The book is split into 3 acts. The first, and it kind of coincides with the ending of the book, where they describe their torture methods, but there's 3 acts: learning, understanding, and acceptance. And in the first act, you learn about the world. You learn about all the methods they use to control the people. You learn about Winston and his sad little old body. And there's a scene where he's working out and he's kind of like slacking off, and then they speak to him like, they're like, Smith W, keep up the good, or get your ass back in line. And it's scary. Like, that is terrifying. We changed it to it's just me here. We changed it to caffeinated critiques because I thought that sounded better than book review. But in saying it for the video, it sounded very goofy. I'm gonna keep doing it, obviously. It's my fucking channel. But I acknowledge that it's goofy. In the second act, he meets Julia, and they undergo this sort of love tryst. Is tryst the right word? Either way, it's a rebellion. And even in their first meeting where they have sex, it's deemed as a political act. Any act of individuality or pleasure that isn't derived from the parties, they ration out chocolate and beer and cigarettes and all that. But, anything that's not strictly within those guidelines is banned, illegal, and you're persecuted for it, even if you're not even guilty. There are so many people in this book who do stuff that's not even that bad. One guy was talking in his sleep and he gets arrested, vaporized. It is so... You must stop imagining that posterity will vindicate you, Winston. Posterity will never even hear of you. You will be lifted clean out from the stream of history. We shall turn you into gas and pour you into the stratosphere. Nothing will remain of you. Not a name in a register, not a memory in a living brain. You will be annihilated in the past as well as in the future. You will never have even existed. Just meaningless. What do they want? They want people who are easily controlled. And as you're going through in Act 2, you're learning about this too, is that they want people who are easily controlled and very pent up with all this anger because they can't have sex, they can't have any pleasure, and so it all turns into hysteria and motivation and passion for the party. There's a war constantly. This is stuff I didn't even get to talk about in the video, and I wish I could. It's just I have to cut it down. But there's a war going on, and constantly the government changes who the enemy is, but they insist that it's always been this enemy. It's always been them, not the other one. Those are our allies. And the people just accept it, partly out of fear that they're going to get killed and vanished, or vaporized as they call it, which is so terrifying. vaporized, dude. But you know, they go with it. And then there's other people who are just so brainwashed and so hollowed out that they just accept it. And that's doublethink, is that you know it's a lie, and then you admit that it's a lie, and then you forget that it even is a lie. So there's really only two steps. But anyways, it's just like I said before, there was a chapter that I always skipped, but I read it and I really enjoyed it. You know, it was always so boring to me and unnecessary. Why would Orwell do that? I don't know. You know, is that the only exciting part of the book, the most exciting part of the book, and the most rebellious part of the book is them just reading another book. That is kind of the message, is that we need to protect information, is that it's sacred. Free speech is sacred, and we can infringe on it with community guidelines. There, why are we saying unalive? It loses its meaning. Just tell people to kill themselves. My thoughts are very scattered, but all this amounts to is go and read 1984 while you still can. You'll be doing yourself a great disservice if you don't, and you'll have a great time if you do.